Hey, what's up everybody? This is Kevin, and in this demo we're going to cover how to use the Uber joint to make a quick bubbler. So, we'll get right into it. For starters, I got about 4 inches of 38 heavy wall right here, and I'm going to blow it out into a little bit of a bubble. I'm going to add this glass to the end of the Uber joint so I'll have enough material to blow a large enough bubble to get a good flat spot on there. So all I'm doing here is sagging this glass down and blowing it out, thickening it up. And I'm going to go ahead and pop my hole here and then prepare the other piece. Making that surface nice and even. And then I'll go ahead and just put this aside. So now I grab my Uber joint there in my right hand, and I have a glass holder in my left. I like to use glass holders on these ones because the profile of the Uber grind is pretty thick, and I have better experience with the glass holder than I do with a regular tool. So the first thing I need to do is paddle the end down, close off that hole, which I'm doing right here. And then the next thing I'm going to need to do is start setting the top of the bubble. Something to be aware of is that the grind is fairly long on these pieces, about 1.5 inches. So you're going to need to leave a little bit of a gap between the bottom of the grind and the top of your bubble, so you have enough space there to pop out a hole to attach your arm to. So now that I've got that top of the bubble pretty much set, I'll go ahead and pop my hole out and get ready to add that piece of clear that I just prepped up. So here we go, getting ready to weld those two pieces together. Quick note about when you're doing welds: the closer you can make the two holes that you're about to put together be identical, the easier you're going to have in keeping a nice tight line in between where that clear and that color is going to be added together. So now that I got my weld put together there, I'm just going to take off the handle, go ahead and punty back up to it, and then I can finish melting in that seal and shaping out my bubble. That's what we're working on right here. Alright, so now that I got my bubble all shaped in, I'm going to go ahead and start putting my flat spot in it. So I like to use my paddle on the initial stages of these flat spots. It makes it a lot easier to keep it nice and straight. I'll go ahead and adjust it later once I get the arm put on. But for now I like to just get about half of the flat spot put on it. Go ahead and paddle that thing down. Alright, so now that that thing's all ready to go, I go ahead and pop that Uber joint into the kiln. I'll put it in there at about 800 and ramp it up to 11. And while that's happening, I'm going to go ahead and make the arm of the piece. One thing to be aware on these Uber bubs is that you put a transition on top of them, and there's all sorts of different transitions that you can get from Glasscraft, but they have a bit of a standoff. So you want to make sure that the arm that you make is going to be tall enough to give yourself a little bit of space between the top of either your bowl or your dome and your actual mouthpiece there. So I'm just working in that bend, and then when this operation's over, my other piece will be nice and hot in the kiln, and I can go ahead and jump right on that weld. So I'm going to clean the skin up from that bend a little bit, and go ahead and pull my Uber joint out of the kiln here. And because these Uber joints have a really heavy profile, you want to be careful when introducing that Uber joint into the flame. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to blow my hole out. I want to get a nice even surface so that weld will be nice and clean. And at this point, we're pretty much ready to do the weld with the arm. Okay, so now I got my two pieces ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and join them together. This weld right here. Do a little quick flame adjustment. Get both pieces nice and warm, and go ahead and do your attachment. So now that I got those pieces all lined up the way I mostly like, I'm going to touch up this weld for a sec, and I'm going to get this thing back in the kiln as quickly as I can, get it all nice and evenly heated. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and break off the male ground joint and leave it in there because it'll help me finish out that weld that I'm working on between the arm and the can. Go ahead and touch that thing up a little bit, and then throw it back in the kiln. Clean up a little bit of scrap first where I broke off that male joint. And back in the kiln. So now I'll heat that thing up a little bit, and you see me, I got my hand torch there, and I'm popping a hole in that male ground joint. I want to avoid having a closed vessel when I break the arm off and put this thing in the kiln. So here we are, all set up. Grab my claw, go ahead and break this thing off. So all that's left now is for you to make your bowl or your dome, select what kind of transition you want to go with. That's one of the great things about these Uber Bubs, is not only are they super simple to clean, but there's also a ton of different attachments that you can get from Glasscraft. So swoop a couple of these joints up, and there's no telling what you might be able to come up with. Also be sure to visit glasscraftinc.com for all your glass blowing needs. Alright everybody, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.